Hi, my name is Ashley Ibert-Amenti, and I'm the Executive Director of the Workforce Housing Coalition of the Greater Seacoast. And I'm going to give you some background on these videos you're now watching. In 2012, over 50 planning board members and other interested individuals attended a videotaped training program entitled Getting Ahead of the Curve Anticipating Workforce Housing Proposals. The footage had volunteers acting out a mock planning board meeting, and in the mock meeting, the planning board was reviewing a proposal for a workforce housing development, and many common questions and concerns were voiced and answered. It was a great learning experience for everyone involved in the mock meeting. This project is an opportunity to share how professional planners, planning boards, developers, and community members can all work together to achieve increased development of workforce housing. These modules are focused on how communities can address the New Hampshire workforce housing law. The first module provides introductory information about what workforce housing is and what is the need and demand for it, particularly in New Hampshire. The second module provides detailed information on what is included in the New Hampshire workforce housing law and includes what is not included in the law. The third module covers different planning and development strategies that communities can use to create opportunity for workforce housing. It also includes some advice for developers to create housing proposals that will be a win-win-win for the developer, the community, and the residents. The fourth module is focused on how community members, businesses, and organizations can get involved in the issue of workforce housing. I hope that you find these video modules helpful and informative, and that you can pass them on and share them with others. Thank you. The Greater Seacoast is one of the least affordable regions in the country, producing harmful economic, social, and environmental impacts. Many cannot afford to live in the communities in which they work. This increases commuting distances, which harms the environment and limits time for civic engagement and recreational activities. Those who cannot afford to live in the area often move away, leaving employers who are unable to hire and retain the workers that they need to sustain and grow their businesses.
The standard in affordable housing is that that a household pay 30% of its gross annual income towards its housing, and we find that in most areas where there's a need for affordable housing, that people on low and moderate incomes pay in excess of half of their income, if not more. And that reduces the amount of income they have to spend on other priorities, education, healthcare, and of course, investment in the local community.
To start, what is the definition of workforce housing?
What is, after all, workforce housing? And it's housing that is affordable for, and the word affordable is in quotations for a reason, a renter family of three making up to 60% of the area median income, and recognize the state is divided into regions for the purpose of income by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Those two things, those income standards in the workforce housing definition and the 30% standard for affordability, give you price points. And that's how we come up with those standards on an annual basis. As incomes change, we revise those numbers. So at a particular income level, what can someone afford to buy or rent?
There's a lot of confusion on what workforce housing is. A lot of people think that it's for people who aren't working in the community, whereas a lot of people who are working in the community still can't afford to live in it. A 30-minute commute can turn into an hour and a half on a bad day. So there's a lot of people coming from Dover and Rochester who work in Portsmouth. And I think a lot of that is based upon the cost of housing and that people cannot afford to live where they work. There's actually a recent study by New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority which pointed out that there's a major mismatching of the housing that is available in New Hampshire and the housing that is wanted today and 10 or 20 years from now, both by young people and older adults who are looking to downsize. They are looking for smaller, more affordable homes. They're not necessarily looking for a huge backyard. Often they're looking for something that is convenient and meets their needs. Unfortunately, there's a lot of huge houses on huge lots right now, and there aren't a lot of people who are looking for that. This changing demand also impacts homeowners who are looking to transition and downsize. They may have difficulty selling their large home if there is not a market for it. While there is great need for workforce housing, the housing stock and production of new homes isn't meeting the current need and future demand.
Housing seems to be a crucial issue in New Hampshire right now because we're trying to attract and retain young folks who are very interested in their communities and their housing. There are towns in the seacoast in New Hampshire where young people can't even find a place to live, to rent, to own, bring up their children, start their businesses. So I think it's an issue that we really need to address as a region.
It's expensive to live around here, and it's expensive to purchase homes. As people get out of school, they look for jobs. They are either looking to rent or buy. Unfortunately, they're being outpriced, especially in the downtown areas of a lot of communities. But as new development comes in, it's making it even more difficult because they're putting in high-end condos and luxury apartments.
Developers may not have the best understanding of what housing stock young people really want to see, and even some older folks too. I think what's really interesting right now is there are two sort of conflicting demographic trends the state of New Hampshire is seeing, and that's we have a really rapidly aging population, and those folks are actually looking to downsize into smaller units in downtowns. And then we have a lot of young people that are coming in and moving into the state and also going to school in the state that are also competing for that downtown housing stock. So I think with those two trends sort of happening, there's a real shortage there. And I'm not sure that developers really understand that.
One of the things I think is important is to look at housing not from an end user standpoint, but from a type of housing standpoint. So in Dover, we don't have elderly housing, we don't have workforce housing, we don't have rich people housing, we don't have poor people housing, we don't have middle class housing, we have housing. Whether it's single family, whether it's apartment style, whether it's garden style. We look at the housing type, not the end user. Similarly, we don't look at condominium as anything more than a form of ownership. So one of the things we've done very strongly, I think, is to ignore the idea of who the end user could be, because any of us could be the end user. And we want to build in that idea that housing is a community builder. So we want to have housing that anyone can participate in, because anyone should be able to participate in the community.
Thank you for your time and interest in welcoming more homes for the workforce into your community. We hope that this video and other efforts will encourage municipal officials, developers, and the community to work together for a win-win-win scenario for the greater Seacoast and the state of New Hampshire. Together, we can create vibrant communities. For more information about workforce housing, please contact your regional housing coalition. In the Seacoast, you can visit www.seacoastwhc.org for more information and to find out how to contact us. Thank you to New Hampshire Housing, United Way of the Greater Seacoast, New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, and JBC Communications for your support of this project and our work.